There is a kind of person the world cannot ignore. Not because they demand attention. Not because they are the loudest voice in the room. Not because they were handed some rare gift at birth that the rest of us simply never received. They are unforgettable because they have mastered something the ancient Stoics understood 2,000 years before modern psychology gave it a name. They have learned to be fully present in a world that has forgotten what presence even means. And here is what no one tells you: that gravitational pull, that invisible force that makes heads turn and conversations pause when certain people walk into a room, it is not charisma. It is not charming. It is not confidence in the shallow way most people use that word. It is something older. Something quieter. Something far more powerful. And by the time this is over, you will understand exactly what it is, and exactly how to build it inside yourself, one small habit at a time.
Welcome to True Stoic Journal, the path to inner control.
Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome. He commanded armies. He governed millions. He held more raw power in his hands than most human beings in all of history ever dreamed of touching. And yet, the quality people remembered most about him was not his power. It was his presence. Those who stood before him described the experience as being truly seen. Not assessed. Not evaluated. Not measured against some invisible standard of worth. Simply seen. In his private journal, the book we now call Meditations, he returned again and again to one idea. The discipline of attention. The practice of being here, fully, without the noise of ego, without the hunger for approval that quietly devours most people from the inside out. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." 3 words. But understand what he meant, and you hold the entire secret of what makes a human being magnetic. Most people are never truly present. They are in a conversation, but their minds are 3 conversations ahead. They are listening but only waiting for the pause that lets them speak. They are looking at you, but they are really looking through you, at their own reflection, their own anxieties, their own internal narrative about how this interaction is going. And people feel this. Not consciously. Not in a way they could name if you asked them directly. But somewhere beneath the surface of awareness, every human being is running a quiet and constant calculation: does this person actually see me, or am I just background noise in their world? The moment someone answers that question with yes, they actually see me, something shifts. Something opens. A warmth rises that has no obvious source. And that person becomes someone you want to be near. This is not manipulation. This is presence. Ancient, disciplined, intentional presence. And it is the root from which every one of these 17 habits grows. Epictetus was born a slave. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing, not his freedom, not his circumstances, not even, for a time, his own body. His master once twisted his leg to demonstrate dominance. Epictetus, without flinching, said calmly, "You are going to break it." And when it broke, he said simply, "Did I not tell you?" That stillness was not indifference. It was the product of a philosophy built in the most brutal classroom life could provide. He understood something that takes most people an entire lifetime to begin to grasp, that the only thing you ever truly possess is your own response. Your attention. Your inner posture. The way you choose to occupy the space between what happens to you and what you do about it. And that inner posture, when it is disciplined enough, when it is calm enough and rooted enough, it radiates outward. People feel it before you speak. Before you move. Sometimes, before you even enter the room. This is why the first habit of magnetic presence has nothing to do with words. Habit 1, the art of stillness. Think about the last time you were near someone who seemed completely at ease. Not performing easily. Not trying to appear relaxed. Actually, genuinely, deeply settled in themselves. Remember how it felt to stand near them. There is a particular quality to that feeling, a kind of gravity. As though the space around them were somehow more stable than everywhere else. As though, just by being close to them, the low hum of anxiety that lives beneath most of our days grew slightly quieter. The Stoics called this quality equanimity. And it begins with something so deceptively simple that most people dismiss it without ever trying it. Before you enter any room, a meeting, a gathering, a single conversation, pause. One full breath. Shoulders open. Feet planted. Weight distributed. Head level. One breath. In that single moment, you are doing what Epictetus practiced in chains, you are choosing, consciously, to own the space you occupy. Not to dominate it. Not to perform in it. Simply to be in it, without apology, without the anxious forward lean of someone desperate to be accepted. People read this immediately. The human nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to stability, and equally drawn toward it. When someone enters a space with that quality of genuine settledness, everyone around them unconsciously registers it as safety. As groundedness. As a signal that says, here is someone who is not running from anything. And we are drawn to that. Powerfully. Instinctively. In the way that something cold and restless is always drawn toward warmth. Habit 2, the slow blink. This habit is so small it almost sounds absurd, until you feel its effect on the receiving end. Most people, when nervous or eager to connect, blink quickly and let their eyes dart around the room. On a subconscious level, it reads as anxious, unsettled, and untrustworthy. Magnetic people blink slowly. Deliberately. It is a signal, quiet but unmistakable, that says I am calm, I am present, nothing here threatens me. Marcus Aurelius understood intuitively what neuroscience has since confirmed, that the quality of your attention is visible in the smallest physical signals, and that others read those signals without ever knowing they are doing it. Slow your blink. Especially in moments of high stakes. Especially when you feel the urge to look away. What you communicate in that stillness is worth more than anything you could say. Habit 3, the triangle of connection. Eye contact is one of the most studied aspects of human connection, and one of the most misunderstood. Most advice tells you to hold strong eye contact without telling you how, leaving you caught between staring like a predator and looking away like you have something to hide. Here is what magnetic people actually do. They let their gaze move slowly and naturally between the left eye, the right eye, and the mouth, forming a soft, unhurried triangle. Not mechanical. Not calculated. Simply the natural gaze pattern of someone who is genuinely and warmly engaged. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." But before association comes attention. And attention begins with where your eyes go and how they move. Done well, this habit creates warmth instead of intensity, trust instead of pressure. And you will notice, if you practice it, that people begin to lean into conversations with you in a way they never quite did before. Habit 4, the intentional pause. Magnetic people do not rush to fill silence. They are comfortable sitting in it, and that comfort is contagious. When someone asks you a question, resist the urge to respond immediately. Pause for 1, perhaps 2 full seconds. Let the question settle. Let your answer form with intention rather than reflex. What happens in that pause is remarkable. You appear more considered. More measured. More certain of yourself. You signal, without a single word, that what you are about to say is worth waiting for. Epictetus taught his students to pause before speaking, not out of calculation, but out of respect. Respect for the person asking. Respect for the truth of your own answer. Respect for the weight that words carry when they are chosen carefully rather than scattered carelessly into the air. The paradox is this: the slower you speak, and the more comfortable you are with silence, the more authority people assign to every word you do say. Habit 5, the forward lean. When someone is speaking, truly speaking, sharing something that matters to them, lean in. Not aggressively. Not obviously. Just fractionally. A slight, almost imperceptible forward shift of the upper body. What this communicates without a single word is, what you are saying is drawing me closer. It is the physical embodiment of genuine interest. And people feel it immediately, even if they cannot name what changed. The sensation of someone physically moving toward you because your words are pulling them in is one of the most connective experiences a human being can have in conversation. Marcus Aurelius wrote of his teacher Sextus, who made all who were with him feel genuinely valued, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet and consistent quality of his attention. The lean is that quality made visible in the body. Habit 6, the mirror of attunement. When human beings are in a genuine positive connection, they naturally begin to mirror each other. They match pace, tone, posture, energy, not deliberately, but as an organic expression of real attunement. Magnetic people do this intentionally, but so subtly that it never becomes mimicry. When someone slows down, you slow down. When they soften their voice, you soften yours. When they ease back, you ease back slightly. When their energy rises, you rise to meet it. This is not imitation. It is the ancient Stoic practice of sympathia, the understanding that to be in genuine relation with another human being is to be, in some small way, moved by them. Done well, the person never consciously notices what you are doing. What they notice instead is an inexplicable feeling, that being around you is easy, that you somehow understand them in a way others do not. That feeling is the signature of magnetism. And this habit is one of the most reliable paths to it. These first 6 habits live in the body. They are not performances of confidence, they are the physical expression of a Stoic inner life. Of someone who has done the work of settling themselves, and whose settled presence now quietly creates stability for everyone around them. But the body can only carry you to the door of connection. What happens once the conversation truly begins, that is where the deeper work lives. There is a reason certain conversations leave you feeling energized, expanded, more alive, while others leave you feeling hollow and unseen. It is rarely about the topic. It is about whether you felt truly heard. Whether the person across from you was actually with you, or merely performing the appearance of listening while waiting for their next opportunity to speak. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Reclaim yourself." And then described what he saw around him, people scattered, fragmented, endlessly distracted, living as though they had unlimited time to waste and no particular reason to be fully present with the person directly in front of them. That was ancient Rome. The epidemic he described has not ended. It has only accelerated. And in this world of fractured attention, the person who actually, genuinely, completely hears you, becomes extraordinary almost by accident. Habit 7, use their name, but sparingly. The human brain responds to its own name in a way nothing else quite replicates. Hearing your own name activates regions of the brain associated with self-relevance and reward. It is one of the most personal sounds in any language. It says, at the level beneath words, I know who you are. You are not interchangeable to me. Magnetic people use names, but sparingly, and with intention. Once, early in a conversation. Once near a meaningful moment. Never robotically. Never as a formula. The difference between that is a really interesting perspective, and that is a really interesting perspective, James, is not grammatical. It is emotional. One is a statement directed at the air. The other lands directly on a person. Used well, a name is not a word. It is a quiet act of recognition. Habit 8, the echo. When someone says something important, something weighted, something that carries more beneath it than the surface words reveal, repeat the last 2 or 3 words back to them as a gentle question. Someone says, "I have been feeling really stuck lately." You say, quietly, "Really stuck?" And then you wait. What happens next is consistently remarkable. People expand. They go deeper. They say the thing they were actually trying to say but had not quite reached yet. Because the echo signals something most people rarely receive, that you heard not just the words, but the weight behind them. And that you are not in a hurry to move past it. The echo costs nothing. And its return in terms of human connection is almost immeasurable. Habit 9, ask the second question. Most people ask one question and then pivot to their own experience. Someone mentions they recently lost someone they loved. You say, "I am so sorry." And then, because the silence is uncomfortable, you begin talking about yourself. Magnetic people ask the second question. What do you miss most about them? Or, what is that loss like for you right now? The second question is where the real connection lives. It communicates something the first question cannot, that you are not checking a social box. That you are genuinely curious about the interior of another person's experience. People feel that distinction in a way that is almost physical. And they remember the person who asked long after they have forgotten everything else about the conversation. Habit 10, validate before you respond. Before you respond to what someone has shared, especially something personal, something difficult, validate it first. Not with empty phrases. Not totally or for sure. But with something real. That sounds genuinely hard. I can understand why that would stay with you. That makes complete sense given everything you have been carrying. One sentence of real acknowledgement, before your advice, before your perspective, creates something psychologically rare. It tells the person, before I say what I think, I want you to know that I actually heard what you said. That small moment of being witnessed is something most people are quietly starving for. And the person who offers it consistently becomes magnetic almost without trying. Habit 11, share a vulnerability, selectively. Most advice about magnetism focuses on projecting strength and certainty. But the Stoics understood something social psychology has since confirmed. Perceived depth and trustworthiness actually increase when someone reveals a genuine moment of uncertainty or struggle. Epictetus did not pretend his circumstances were comfortable. Seneca did not pretend he had mastered every virtue he wrote about. Marcus Aurelius, in the most private pages of his journal, admitted fears and failures that would have shocked anyone who knew him only as emperor. Their honesty did not diminish them. It made them human. When you are willing to say "I honestly do not know," or "I struggled with that far longer than I would like to admit," you open a window that most people keep permanently sealed. And the air that comes through that window makes everyone around you breathe a little easier. Habit 12, meet their energy, then gently lead. Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person's energy was so dramatically different from yours that it created an invisible friction between you? Too loud when you needed quiet. Too somber when you were trying to find some lightness. Magnetic people are skilled emotional calibrators. They read the other person's energy and meet them there first. If someone is subdued, they soften. If someone is animated, they rise to match it. This initial matching builds trust rapidly. It communicates, "I see where you are." And then, gently and without force, they lead. They bring the energy slowly toward openness, toward warmth, toward depth. Because they met the person first, the person follows, not because they are being guided, but because they feel safe enough to move. Now we arrive at the deepest layer. While the habits of the body create presence and the habits of conversation create connection, there is a third category that creates something rarer than both. A magnetic identity. A way of being that is not something you do, but something you have become. Marcus Aurelius did not simply practice good habits. He built a character. Forged through years of daily discipline and ruthless self-examination, a self that was genuinely worth being near, not because it was impressive, but because it was real. Habit 13, develop a point of view. Magnetic people have opinions. Not aggressive ones. But clear, considered, lived-in perspectives that make every conversation richer the moment they enter it. Most people water down their real thoughts. They hedge. They qualify. They compress what they actually believe into something smaller and safer. A person without a genuine point of view is like a building without a foundation, pleasant enough to look at, but you would not trust it in a storm. Develop your perspective. Test it against philosophy, against history, against your own lived experience. And then have the courage to share it, not to convince, but to contribute. Habit 14, remember the details. When someone tells you something, that they are nervous about an important conversation, that someone they love is unwell, that they have been working towards something for months, remember it. And the next time you see them, ask, how did that go? Is your mother feeling better? In a world where most people are barely listening, the person who actually retains something you said last week becomes extraordinary. Treat every person as though what they said to you mattered enough to carry. Because when someone realizes you held on to something they told you, the message they receive is powerful and simple: you were worth remembering. Habit 15, celebrate other people's wins without reservation. When someone shares good news, magnetic people respond with full, unfiltered enthusiasm. Not a polite acknowledgement. Not a brief congratulations before redirecting back to themselves. Genuine celebration, present, warm, unhurried. That is incredible, tell me everything. This is surprisingly rare. Because genuine enthusiasm for someone else's success requires a freedom from comparison and competition that most people have not fully developed. The Stoics called this freedom from envy, one of the clearest signs that a person has done the inner work. When you find that quality in someone, it tells them without a single word, I am not threatened by your success. I am simply, genuinely glad for you. Habit 16, ask for a small favor. Most people assume that doing favors for others creates a connection. But something equally powerful works in the opposite direction. Asking someone for a small, genuine favor makes them like you more. Benjamin Franklin observed this himself. When he wanted to build a relationship with a rival who disliked him, he did not do something for the man. He asked to borrow a rare book. The rival lent it. And something shifted, a warmth that doing a favor could never have created. When someone does something for you, their mind unconsciously concludes, I must value this person, because why else would I have helped? So ask. Ask for a perspective. Ask for a recommendation. Done sincerely, it creates a thread between you that often grows into something neither of you expected. Habit 17, become someone who notices. Magnetic people notice things. They notice when someone is quieter than usual. They notice when something in a person's expression suggests they are carrying more than they are saying. They notice the person at the edge of the room who has not yet found their footing, and they walk toward them. Not to perform observational skills, but because they genuinely noticed. Because their attention is directed outward rather than turned relentlessly inward. In a world where most people are half present at best, the person who is actually and fully looking becomes magnetic almost without trying. Because attention, given completely and without agenda, is one of the rarest gifts one human being can offer another. And when people receive it from you, consistently, genuinely, without performance, they do not simply like you. They seek you out. They carry the memory of being near you long after you have left the room. They become, without quite knowing why, slightly better versions of themselves in your presence. And that quiet, powerful, ancient capacity to make other human beings feel more alive simply by being fully present with them, that is what the Stoics were pointing toward all along. Not magnetism as a social strategy. Not present as a performance. But the deep, disciplined, daily practice of actually showing up, for yourself, for others, for the unrepeatable moment you are standing in right now. These 17 habits are not tricks. They are a way of living. A commitment, renewed each morning, to be the kind of person whose presence is a gift. And the beautiful thing about beginning is that you do not have to wait until you have mastered all 17. You only have to begin. Pick one. Practice it today. Because character is not built in a single day, but in the accumulation of single moments, chosen well, over a lifetime. If this video moved something in you, if even one of these habits made you see yourself or the people around you differently, then do something with that feeling right now. Like this video. Share it with someone in your life who is quietly working on becoming better, someone who deserves to know that the most powerful thing they can do is simply learn to be more present. And if True Stoic Journal feels like the kind of channel that gives you something real to carry into your day, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because what is coming next goes even deeper than this. The next video will challenge something you have believed about yourself for years. You will not want to miss it. Remember this, the most magnetic thing you will ever do is stop trying to be impressive, and start choosing, moment by moment, to be genuinely present. Because presence is not a gift you are born with. It is a discipline you build. And the person who builds it does not just change how others see them, they change how they move through the world entirely.